free, safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we taking the quest. Join Tarsha on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. I am your host, Tarsha Smith, and welcome back to yet another week, another journey, another story. You already know, go follow, share, like, subscribe, do all the things, tell all your friends. Y'all already know what to do. So I'm going to dive right in. This week, we have an adoptive mother with us to tell her story. Hey, Adrienne.
Hello, Ms. Tarsha.
Thank you so much for wanting to come and share your story.
Absolutely.
So, being that you're an adoptive mom, I'm going to start here. How did we become to be an adoptive parent? What was going on in your life?
Yeah. So it's like a couple different things of how we got to this place.
Okay.
So it kind of starts about what I do for a living. So my job, what I do, I work with victims of sex trafficking. And I've been doing this work for 8 years, almost 8 years now, walking alongside women who have been trafficked, who have gone through hell and back, basically. And you name it, like if you understand about trafficking from all ages. So my youngest client was 13, my oldest was 56. So
Wow.
So I got into that, and so I've worked in as a director for a long time in the nonprofit organization where I'm from, which I live in Alaska, and so yes, I'm in the state of Alaska, anchored Alaska.
Okay.
So it's a nonprofit organization here, and we are the only organization that works with trafficking victims solely. Other ones do like other areas, so domestic violence, sexual assault. And so anyway, so I, in the process of that, I've had multiple clients that I work with. In the midst of this, my husband and I, we were wanting to have a child. We had no children yet. We'd been married a few years, and I wanted to have a baby, and it just wasn't happening. Did everything we possibly could to try and have a baby, went through treatments, everything. We didn't do IVF. The reason why we did not do IVF is because, number one, it's expensive, and it's not guaranteed. So I understand even adoption is expensive, but IVF is not guaranteed. And also, we did not have any IVF specialists in the entire state of Alaska, and which is insane.
I'm learning some stuff about Alaska today. Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
we had no IVF specialists in the entire state. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't have the time to take off work to go to the nearest place for us would be Seattle, to travel all the time to get the treatments done and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I don't have the time to be able to do that. So my boss came and told me that one of the clients who had not told me was expecting. And she said she didn't want to keep her baby. And so they're like,
okay, hold on, stop.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump in.
Okay.
So one of the clients from the who had been I don't know how I want to say it.
Traffic.
One of your clients. Okay, traffic.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure. Okay. And were they pregnant as a result of being trafficked, or they were just pregnant or did you know?
They were just pregnant.
Okay.
Just from somebody they were involved in. It wasn't even a boyfriend. So it was somebody they were messing around with. But because of the history of the women that we've served, they could have been trafficked and they just don't know. Like, they don't think about it because it's a life that they've been in for so long. It's normal for them. So to this day, I have no idea if the father of this baby was ever a trafficker or not. I know he wasn't a good guy. I do know that. So she supposedly was just pregnant, but she did not. She already had 2 other children, and she was like 23, 24 years old, and the other 2 children were in state's custody. She wanted to try and get her other kids back, and she's like, I can't have another baby. Like, I'm still just trying to get my other ones back. So we talked about it. My boss, me and my husband, we talked about it, and we kind of sat her down and was like, what's your plan? Do you have a plan? And kind of brought it up to her as far as the possibility of adoption. And she was like, that sounds like a good idea. And so we kind of moved forward, and I was like, okay. So it just kind of happened like that. Like, it seemed like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
So when it happens like that, is that considered to be a private adoption?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's
so
gonna be
you
a
have to
private
go through
adoption.
those channels.
Yep. We, in order, of course, to do our home study and to go through, like, to be an actual adoptive parents, we'd have to go through, like I said, doing the home study and background checks and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and probably connect with the adoption agency here in the state. So it's Alaska Adoption Services, and was like, let's connect her with them to make sure that I want to make sure all T's are crossed and I's are dotted,
For
or
sure.
like just making sure we're not doing anything that looks illegal or even any type of child trafficking, especially with working in the field that I'm in.
For sure.
I
For
need to
sure.
make sure everything was done correctly. So I said to my husband, I was like, we need to like get everything in order if we're planning on doing this. Let's sign up. Let's see what we have to do.
So let me ask you about your husband. And I
Yes.
love to ask this question because there
Mm-hmm.
is a thing where Black and brown men don't want to adopt.
Mm-hmm.
So how was your husband feeling about this?
He was 100% on board. 100% on board.
Okay.
I think just he's a very kind, gentle man. Like he's just like whatever you say. And he grew up, and you're right, like just African American Black people in general. It's just not something you hear often. And it's like you don't take nobody's baby, like we adopt within the family. Like it's just not something you hear of often.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't think much of it. He never thought much of it. But this is the awesome thing about it. A little bit about his history, and he knows I'm doing this podcast, so I can share openly. A little bit about his history. He was married previously and had 2 other daughters, and neither of them were his biological daughters, but he took on the responsibility of those girls and raised them as his own. And I told him, I was like, you may have never like officially adopted them, but they only know you as daddy. Like you are their father. And so, and they're now grown. They're 31 and 21. Like they're grown children. And, and
Okay.
so I was like, you have been in their life their entire life. So technically, even though you didn't go through all this process that we're starting, you pretty much did. You pretty much did the same thing. You loved children that were not yours. And so
That's
I think
awesome.
that kind of opened up his heart and his mind even more so like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that I wanted to be a mom. I was like, I haven't had children. I got a degree in early childhood development. I was like, I've always loved kids. And I was like, okay, God, like you knew this was my purpose. I am supposed to be a mom. Why am I not able to get pregnant? Why am I going through this, dealing with infertility? My husband, so it was male and female factor infertility. And so he felt horrible about the fact. He's like, I feel horrible that I'm not even able to give you a child because you want this so bad. So I think he was willing to kind of do whatever it took
Gotcha.
to make my
Understood.
dreams come true. So, so I think that's pretty much what happened.
So when you started going through the process with the adoption agency, did the mom officially say, did she have an opportunity to officially say, these are the people that I want? Did she like to pick you or?
Nope.
Yeah. Walk me through that.
Yeah. So when we were going through that, we started the whole process and we never even really got through to the adoption agency. We have other organizations that kind of work with the adoption agency that we have because doing home studies and stuff is extremely expensive, like super expensive. And so we found some independent home study writers that charge a little less. And so we're like, let's go through them. Let's do that. And so then the organization walked us through kind of like everything that we needed to do. So we needed our background checks, our fingerprinting, all that stuff done. And this is during the pandemic, by the way. So this is all in 2020. So like literally, like we start this in like April 2020. So right when everything shut down.
Beginning, when everything shut down.
Yes. And for Alaska, we shut down like last week of March, pretty much. So I was like, I don't even know if these places are operating, if they're like, but we're going to definitely try and see what we can do. So sure enough, they still were operating. And so we went ahead and went through that whole process, did all our background checks, the state background check, federal, the CPS, all of that. They were able to get everything through. And actually, because everything was shut down, the process went quicker, believe it or not. Like getting all of our background check stuff back, making sure everything passed, it came back quicker. So once we did the home study, we did that. In the midst of all of this young lady changed her mind. She changed her mind. She decided to parent. Yeah.
How far
So
into the pregnancy was she?
let's see. She was probably about 4-ish months, right? 4 or 5 months ish, right around there.
Okay.
So
So let
we're
me ask
like,
you this. I have to ask, yeah.
yeah.
Walk me through those emotions when you
Oh,
are geared up and you're excited and
yes.
then the mother decides.
I was
Walk
like,
me
well,
through that.
I'm a very emotional person anyways.
Oh, okay.
Um, and so every now and then logic will set in. So I'm like, okay, let me set my emotions aside and think logically, because I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't for us either. Like, because everything in that moment felt like it was failing us. I was like, we can't get pregnant. Now we tried this route. It's not working. Like, what are we supposed to do? You know, we
Mm-hmm.
went through we've already started this process. We've already spent
Mm-hmm.
money on getting all of our background checks done. Our home study, everything is already in process, and she changes her mind. So what are we supposed to do? Like, I'm literally stuck.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? So I prayed. So I love the Lord very much. You're going to hear me bring up God a lot in this podcast.
Me too.
Okay. So, so I prayed. I told my husband, I was like, we need to pray and see what our next step is, like what God wants for us.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, it was like, it wasn't audible, but it was clear, where he said, I always said you would be a mom. I just never said how you would be a mom, how you would become a mother. And so because of that, I was like, okay, well, I guess like I'm not giving up. I'm gonna keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that situation was kind of closed and done with,
Mm-hmm.
I was okay, well, we got to figure out what's next. So this is another part of our story, because we talked about how you just don't see a lot in the Black community of adopting.
Right.
My heart was set on being a mom to a young Black mother. And this client that we had, she was Black as well. So,
Okay.
so I really want to do that. Here in the state of Alaska, there's a lot of Black people here. Believe it or not, there are a lot of us. But there isn't a lot of us when it comes to adopting or foster care or anything like that. It's mostly the
Okay.
Alaska Native American Indian culture. And because I've worked in this field for a long time, whether it's been working with women in trauma, working in family services, human services, that's like my background. In early childhood, I've seen firsthand it is very difficult to adopt or foster children of Alaska Native American Indian descent, because there are tribal laws in place.
Okay.
And the tribal courts take precedence over the federal and state courts.
Yeah.
So if it's an Alaska Native child that's coming into your home, they're going to do everything they can to try and get that child in with some type of family member within their tribe.
Within the tribe.
And it's somewhere within our entire state of Alaska. So it could be a little village, little town of like 300 people where everybody's related. That's about 400 miles away from, I'm in the big city. So I was like, I don't want to go through all that.
Yeah.
That's too much. So I was like, okay,
and that's so interesting. Just because, and I'm thinking about because I talk to a lot of transracial adoptees who are Black and they ended up with a white family, or vice versa, even though you don't hear about the other side of that coin too often.
Yeah.
But I think from the adoptee perspective, they all wish that if I have to be adopted, could I had at least maybe have been adopted within my same culture. So it's interesting that the tribes, which makes sense, fight so hard to make sure that the baby stays at least with someone in the tribe.
Yeah. And they're adamant about it. And it can take the process so long and tiresome and stressful, because it's hard too, on our end. Like if we did have a child that was Alaska Native, like we still are bonding with this child and we want to love this child and we want to treat them as our own. But when you're having to go through all the other parties, all the other powers that be, it's just like, this is going to be never ending.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
And so I decided, and my husband, he's originally from Michigan, so he's new to all this Alaska stuff. I mean, he's been living here now for 12 years, but in this world where I'm born and raised here, so this is all I know, he doesn't. So I'm like, babe, like I'm wanting us to take another route. So I just think it's time for us to. So I was like, I don't want to adopt within my state. I don't want to adopt within the state of Alaska. So we started looking everywhere else in the country. We wanted to do domestic. We were definitely set on domestic infant adoption. But I was like, let's look across the country, see what else is out there. So doing my research, I'm a big researcher. I will Google with a quickness. Like I will tell me what's the news. Like I'm good at that. So I was like, let's go on Google and find different adoption agencies around the country that would work. And then I found out about consultants. And and when I compared adoption agencies with consultants seem to be the best bet because they kind of partner with a bunch of agencies in different places, and the chances of getting chosen would be faster than if you sign up with just one agency. So we interviewed kind of with a few different adoption consultants around the country, and we found one in Atlanta. Because that's where you are. Are you in Atlanta?
I'm in Orlando.
Orlando. Okay. I don't know what that's.
That's where I am.
Okay. So we found one in Atlanta, an amazing faith-based adoption consultant organization. And what drew me to them was not just that they were faith-based, but kind of sort of like our first initial consultation call. They prayed for us like right away. They were like, we're going to pray for whatever child is going to be in your home. We'll pray for the salvation of this child. And I mean, and for us to be at peace about whatever to say. I mean, it was just like instantly, it was like, this is who you need to go with. And so it was like and I had already talked to like 3 other ones. And so it was like right away, we had a piece about this organization and we're like, let's go with them. So we signed up with them and started the rest of the process. We signed up and finished up our home study. It was completed. We submitted it to the consultants and started the waiting process.
Now, let me ask you this, because you had already started paying out money and doing things in the process. Did you have to repeat some of those things or so you didn't lose money having to switch gears? Okay.
And the reason, which I'm super happy about, because I decided to not go with the Alaska Adoption Services, and I chose our home study writer outside of them. I mean, they contract with them, but I didn't have to pay money to the adoption services in Alaska. I just paid the independent contracted home study writer. So
now, I have another question, because now that I know that you adopted across state lines, isn't there also a lot of things that go along with adopting across state lines because you're dealing with 2 different state 2 different sets of laws?
Yes, we are. We did have to go through that while we were where we were. The process, the ICPC, which stands. I always not international. I forgot. Something has to do with crossing state lines with a child. Basically, you have to make sure everything is legal. Making sure all the legal parties in the state that you live in, so legal parties within the state of Alaska, are coordinating and talking to the legal parties within the state where the child is born, are coordinating, and all documents are switched and everything's good, because you also want to make sure that there's no child trafficking across state lines.
Right.
So you have to make sure that everything is in place and the agency works with you, connects with you, communicates with you. They're supposed to make sure everything is set. And this is like, you cannot leave the state until everything is done. We also had to get fingerprinted in that state. So once we got to the state where our child was born, we had to get fingerprinted there and do a background check within that state. Even though we're not from there, we had to do that. So they had to also run us in that state and get everything through. Also request records in the state of Alaska and where my husband was originally from in Michigan, to make sure we're not criminals, basically, that we are able to take this child that was born out of the state. So
at this point, do you know, is there a baby, or at this point you're just going through the process and hoping that you'll be selected?
Well, so once we signed up with the agency in Atlanta, we were not chosen yet. So we're now waiting it out. So now I'm going to give you a timeline, because this is kind of the cool stuff. So this was on my birthday. I signed the contract, which my birthday was July 1st. So July 1st, 2020, I signed up, and, I said, again, adoption is expensive. super expensive. We didn't even have all our funds. Like we already put a lot in for all the initial paperwork, all that kind of stuff. I was like, the Lord gave me an amount to like, just like ask for, because you don't know how much you're going to have to pay. Like nobody knows, but it's a lot. So God gave me the amount of like 35,000. So I was like, okay, we don't have that. We might have like maybe half of it. But I was like, well, we're just now starting our process. Adoptions take like a year. They can take up to a year, depending, on situation, waiting for a child. And then, of course, the birth mother, expectant mother, she's pregnant, 9 months. So it can take a while. So it was like, we have time to fundraise. So when we signed the contract with the agency in Atlanta, we signed it on July 1st. I posted on social media to my whole community, to everybody on my page. I said, everybody share this. I was like, Tommy and I, my husband's Tommy, we have started our journey into adoption. I shared our story about infertility and everything. I said, this is what we need. And I need y'all to rally around us and help us. And just in that day, on July 1st, we easily got close to $7,000 that was given to us. So people were just throwing it at us. I put out my Cash App, Venmo, Adopt Together, which is a wonderful crowdfunding site. We were like, this is what we need. I was like, we don't know when a child's coming, but we're just going to be patient and wait. But this is what we need now.
Okay. So I want to now I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay. Go for it.
What would you say, or what do you say to the people that say you should not fundraise to adopt? What would you say to that?
Well, I'd ask them why they feel that way, number one. And number two, I would think, I don't see anything wrong with doing that, because I don't think there's anybody, including people who work in the field of adoption, are okay with how much it costs. I kind of think it's criminal, the amount of money that they charge for a child that's just wanting to be loved, a child that is not going to be loved by the parents that are birthing them, that created them. They just, let them be in a home with a loving family. For them to charge that much is insane. And the average person, outside of celebrities and people who are work for Fortune 500 companies,
just don't have 35,000 just laying around.
Exactly. They just don't have my card. It's not happening. Trust me, it will decline quickly if they try to do that to my card. So there's no way. And, let alone, inflation, let alone, so many other things going on. And so it's out of my control as far as how much this cost. But I still have that desire to be a mother. And this is my way of being able to be a mom, and for us to be parents to a child that needs a home, whether it was if it's a brand new baby, a newborn, or if it's an older child, who knows? This child deserves to be loved. And if it's going to end up costing us, it's going to cost us, but we don't have the money. So why not be wonderful people? And you're putting your money out there towards other stuff. I'm not going to start going that route. Like you're paying $300 some for some Jordans, or everybody knows what they love. For us, okay, I got my nails done faithfully, get my feet done faithfully, get the waxing, the massage, the facial, all this kind of stuff. And we know we're going to spend a lot of money. Why can't you take that to put towards something that's not saying that stuff isn't a necessity or anything? We love to take care of ourselves.
No, I hear you.
But just the values behind it.
I hear
something
you.
Where it's like, wow, we want to be able to bless this family to be able to bring this child home. And unfortunately, it does cost a lot, but let's help them because they don't have it. Does that make sense?
It does. I love your answer. Like I said, I just wanted to play, because I know there's people out there that feel like that. So I just had to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Since that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
What you would say to them.
And thank God for my village and my community, where they just absolutely, hands down, and just was right away. And we definitely had some naysayers in there, from people that would share our post on social media. People I didn't personally know, they would write on there, it's why are they asking for all this money, or why does it cost us? And they'd have those questions. And so I would answer.
Some people have those questions because they're naive. They just don't know
exactly
what it is. So sometimes that comes from a place of just really not knowing. And then some people just have an opinion. People
Exactly.
just feel like they need to
And
say something about everything.
exactly. And the other question they get with it too, they're like, well, if it costs so much, foster care is free. Why don't you just do foster care? Those children need homes. I was like, yeah, you're 100% correct. If God didn't call me to foster care, I'm going the way that I know that God has
Mm,
directed me. He didn't call me to foster care in this time, in this moment, in this season of our life. So we're
mhm.
not doing that. Also, I want a child that's going to be my home forever. Foster care is hard because you don't know how long the child's going to be with you. You get
Right.
attached, and then they end up
Right.
going
Because
back
it's
to the
built for the
biological
child to
family.
go back.
Exactly. Foster care. The whole purpose of foster care is reunification with the bio
Right.
family. So me going into foster care, my reason for going into foster care isn't so I can adopt a child that's supposed to go back to their bio family. That's not the reason. I would open my doors to a foster child because they need to be in a safe place, whether temporary or long term. Who knows?
Mhm.
Not for a
Mhm.
selfish reason for me because I want to adopt this child. Nope, I'm only taking a child if I know that they're going to
Want
be
to
adopted.
stay.
That, yeah, I'm not, that's the wrong purpose. That's the wrong reason. I'd be going into that in a selfish way, and I refuse to do that.
I love
So,
that you said that. I love that. I love
thank
that.
you.
Okay, so
So
now
there's,
that you've fundraised and you take me on the next step. Walk me
okay.
on this journey. What happened
Yeah.
next?
So money's still steadily coming in, and me and my husband are just waiting, going throughout our life, like, okay. And it's crazy because this is when I knew that we had to, like, my faith and my trust in God was like had definitely grown during this time,
Mm.
because that waiting period is like no other.
Mhm.
And, I was like, okay, I'm not going through the process of carrying a child, but that expectation of knowing, and even not knowing when a child is coming, what child is coming, from where. Like, we had no idea. This specific consultant company, they contracted with about 30, I think, 30 different agencies across the country.
Okay.
So our child could come from Florida, from Arizona, from California, from Tennessee, I mean, so many different places. We have no idea what
Mm-hmm.
the Lord was going to bless us with, but we knew he was going to do it. It's just the waiting part.
Just the
And
waiting.
so there's a scripture that comes to my mind right now. Isaiah 60:22. It says, I, the Lord God, in the right time, I, the Lord God, will make it happen. And I'm just like sitting on that scripture, just believing like, okay, this is when I really have to trust God. Like, it's out of my control. So why
Yeah.
am I going to keep sitting there and just thinking like, come on, when is it going to happen? Like, it's all in God's hands. And so that's the hard thing, because it's like relinquishing control. I don't like to relinquish
Oof.
control. I
That's
like to
hard.
keep
It's hard.
everything. Yes, it
It's
is.
hard.
But it's real. Like,
It is.
actually giving it up to somebody who we've already said that we fully trust. And I've even said this too. I was like, there's so many times where I say, okay, God, I trust you, but I was like, I have to learn to take that but off
But off.
of
Right.
that
I
sentence.
trust you.
I trust you, God,
And then he's
period.
going to give you an opportunity to
Hmm.
trust him. That's how he
Yes.
works.
Yep. Exactly. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to take my own advice, because I'm telling people to do this all the time, as far as to trust and to wait and to be patient and all this kind of stuff. And also, walking through the fruit of the Spirit. Patience is one of the fruit of the Spirit. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, God's already given us this fruit. It's not something we have to pray and ask for. He's already given it to us. It's the fact that some of these fruits, it's like working certain muscles when you go to the gym. Like, my upper body might be strong, but my lower body is weak. So when I go to the gym, in order to get my lower body to equal with my upper body, I got to work those muscles in my legs, in my
Right.
calves, in my hamstrings, my quads, whatever it is. So there's certain muscles that are weaker than other muscles. It's the same with all those fruit. I'm good with love. I'm good with joy. I'm good with goodness and gentleness. But my self-control, my patience, those are the weaker muscles. So I need to do whatever I can to strengthen those muscles in order to get to really fully, I feel, really fully trust God in this
Yeah.
process, in this journey that we're on right now, because this is very, very difficult. So sure enough, he was doing that, because I had no other choice but to wait. So,
But to wait. And we're still in 2020, right? We're
yes,
still
still in
in that.
2020.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So we're waiting. So in communication with the consultants, and what they do is they email all the waiting families that are part of this, that have signed on, that are contracted waiting families. And so they're like, hey, we have a case. So they send cases of different expectant mothers at different
Mm-hmm.
agencies across the country, looking for a family that will love and take the child.
Okay,
And
hold on. I have a
so,
question. I have a quick
yeah.
question. Are you still only looking to adopt a Black baby?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
during our
Go
home
ahead.
study, there's a specific section during the home study where they ask your preferences. So like,
Okay.
do you want a boy or girl or both, either one? A child with special needs, any medical concerns, like where are you, even like on the spectrum. So like if it's a child with special needs, they'll say it's as like severe as like a child with Down syndrome or autism, or as simple as something like allergic reactions to formula, like something like that. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's just, are you
Okay.
willing, what are you open to? Open to children born from rape? Are you open to children born from incest? Like, so there's all these different areas they'll ask you during the home study, what your preferences are. And I said, our
Okay.
preference is a Black child, but I said Black represented. So it could be a child that is mixed. So Black and white, Black and
Okay.
Asian, Black and Pacific Islander, Black and Hispanic. It can be any other culture within, but I knew I wanted a child that was of African American descent for sure. That was
Okay.
represented in their DNA. So so we're getting all these cases that were coming to us, and just reading up on them, and we have the chance to say yes or no if we want to present to that expectant mother.
Okay.
She's the one who looks at them. So she's given our profile book that we've created. So we had to do that as well. It's a whole profile book. And I'll show you this. I brought it with me. This is my whole adoption journey.
Our adoption
Binder.
journey.
This is the organization of me. Like, I am super organized.
Super organized.
Yes. And so we have a whole adoption. This is our profile book of me and my husband. And so it just has pictures, everything about us in it, and just everything about us. And so each expectant mother who we decide to present to gets this book. They have like just a regular like PDF file of it. And so they look through it to see. They're not interested in looking through our home study. The home study was like, ours was at least like 20 pages of a bunch of information that was just like, they don't care. It's a bunch of reading. Our profile book is pictures and it's colorful. That's what they want to look at.
Yeah, that's
more
what they
about
want to look
us. At. Yeah, like what my favorite food is, where I've traveled, stuff like that. So they look at it, and that's only if we decide to present to them. So once we read their background and figure out like, okay, it looks like this is like a family that we can present to, then we'll say yes to the consultants, and they're like, okay, we'll send their profile and we'll get back to you. Well, I'm big on praying about every situation that came our way.
Absolutely.
And seeing like, is this one that we should present to? So we had a few no's. We said no to a few of them, because we just saw some red flags. Red flags. One that was a young mom who already had 4 kids, and I don't know if I'm allowed to share them or not, but they it just didn't look like, I felt like they were going to end up changing their mind. So like just based on the history that we got, the father was in the picture and was the father of all the other 4 kids, and they got in a fight. And then they broke up.
And then
like,
now she's going to put,
I'm like, there's a good chance that we get back together, because they already have history and they got 4 of the kids. He has a good job. He was working as a trucker or something like that.
And then he could fight it as well. So,
yeah. We had another one of a situation of a young woman who was single, and she wanted to be a mom. She went and did artificial insemination and got pregnant. She was a single mother. Her son was a year old. She ended up getting COVID and lost her job. And she just went through a state of depression. It was like, I don't want to be a mom anymore. And she wanted to place her child up for adoption, who was already a year old. And I said no, because I was like, there's already an attachment there. That's your child. But not only are you attached to your child is attached to you. And so thank goodness they ended up working that out, and she ended up keeping her son, which was great. So
let me just commend you for that, because some people would have just taken the baby. And the fact that you were able to say no, even though you wanted to be a mother, and but you were, just being like, that baby's already attached to you. I don't want to take there are some people that would have been like, yeah, bring me by any means necessary, bring me the baby. And
I'm big on
so I commend you for that.
Thank you. I was like, look at the big picture. Let's look at everything in the situation. She's going through a hard time right now in her life. She's got COVID, and everybody's scared of COVID at this time. It's still new,
Right.
So everybody's afraid of it, and they don't know what's going to happen. She's lost her
Mm-hmm.
job, so she's really scared. She's in it alone. She's a single mom. But I was like, she has to go through some type of therapy for talk to somebody before she's making this rash decision. So that's why I said, I was like, I don't think this is a good choice for us to, I know we're going to pray for her and pray for this baby. And so thank God we found out that she ended up keeping her baby. So very happy about that. So we're still just waiting. So then all of a sudden, this is where we're moving a little forward more. So remember, July 1st on my birthday is the day we signed the contract. Mm-hmm. We get an email on August 13th, so a month and a half later, about a mother in Dallas, Texas, who, and kind of like I said, we got multiple emails. She was specifically looking for a Black family. And she was, they're looking at a whole bunch of, she had 15 or 16 other families she was looking at. They're like, we sent this only to you. So the cases that they send go out to every waiting family within the agency.
Okay.
They sent it only to us. Now, this is something I did not share. We are the only out of maybe 200 waiting families. My husband and I were the only Black family within this consultant group.
Wow.
And they told us when we first signed on, she's like, I just want you to know that you guys aren't going to be waiting long. I was like, how are you so sure about this? She's like, well, number one, I've been doing this for a while. Number two, Black families are a dime a dozen. And when specifically heterosexual Black families. And when these young, especially these young Black mothers see that there is a Black family available, they're going to go for it. Nothing against transracial adoption at all. I think it's beautiful. But they're wanting a child raised within their culture, kind of like I said, with the Alaska Native culture and stuff. They're wanting the child raised in their culture. They're going to jump at it as quickly as they can. And so they're like, so we've had a few in the past, and they never last. So I was like, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, this is August 13th when we signed on July 1st. August 13th, okay. They send this, we just sent it to you. We have a young girl. She's in Dallas, Texas, and looking for her family to adopt her baby. And so we read up her history, read up on it, prayed about it, told my husband. And he's at work. I'm at home. And I was like, they're like, we need an answer soon on this one. So this one's kind of an urgent one. So if it's a no, let us know. If it's a yes, let us know by 5:00 p.m. And this is
that day.
Yeah, that day. And this is 9 a.m. So we pretty much had the work day to give them an answer. And usually we have at least 24 to 48 hours to give them an answer. So this was we need to know some hours here. So I was like, okay. So I was told my husband, I was like, pray about it. Let me know. Get back to me in the next few hours. You don't have to rush, but kind of rush. Let me know, if you hear from the Lord and what he says. And same for myself. And I was like, I'm just going to pray about it. And as I keep reading through it, just something was telling me to say yes. And I had not said yes to any other case that had come to us. And we were getting cases daily. I hadn't said yes to any other. So I had not presented to any other expected mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So none of the other ones that had come to us, I did not feel peace about any of the other ones that came to us. Nothing wrong with them per se, but
yeah,
it was just God's going to tell me which one is supposed to be. That's how much I'm trusting him in this. And so God had given me a yes. I was like, I just got to wait for Tommy. I got to make sure that we're unified in this.
Yeah.
If his is a no, then I was like, well, maybe I heard wrong or maybe he did. I don't know, but we need to be on the same page.
For sure.
So he calls me a few hours later and he said, we need to present. This is what we need to do. I was like, are you serious? He was like, yep. I was like, okay. So I called the agency back. I was like, we're presenting to her. Now, it's not a guarantee that she would choose us. It's just, we have to, she has to look at our profile book. It's like, okay, we'll send it to the agency down in Dallas and let them know. And then we'll just stay in touch. So that was on the 13th. We heard back the next day on the 14th from the agency in Dallas saying that she looked at our profile book. She looked at about 17 other families, about 17 others across the country. So everywhere. But she really likes you guys. There's still a couple other ones that she's also likes a lot. So she wants to sleep on it. So that was a Friday. When I tell you she wants to sleep on it, so that means we had to wait the whole weekend. So we're not going to hear.
That was the
So
longest weekend.
even right now, it's stressing me because I'm just like, I was like, okay, I need these days to speed up. I need them to speed up. Like, I was just like, just waiting. And so I was okay, Lord, if it's your will, if this child is supposed to be in our home, it will happen. I mean, it doesn't take away my anxiousness and me still wanting to hurry up and get to Monday. And so I'm just waiting. So sure enough, that Monday comes and I get a call from our consultants. And the first thing she says, she's like, are you ready to be a mama? That was what she said to me. When I tell you, I bursted in tears. I was like, I felt like I was starting to hyperventilate a little bit because I was shocked. And I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Well, what are you saying? She's like, she chose you and your husband. She chose y'all. And out of all the families, small couple up in Alaska, she chose us. And she said, there's a reason why she chose you. And they told us why. It's because there's a picture in our profile book of my husband holding his daughters. Like they're just like hugging him. Mm-hmm. And just seeing that. And then there's a page of our families. I'm one of 6 siblings. And so I have a huge family. And so I had tons of pictures of my siblings and my nieces and my nephews and my parents. And, I shared in there, I'm a PK. My dad's a pastor. So I shared that. I was like, we have a loving family. We're God-fearing family. Like we're super close, super tight knit. And my husband as well. And here's pictures with his daughters. And he's dancing with his daughter who was 16 at the time and at her sweet 16th birthday party. And it was just, they're nice pictures. We just put them in there. Not trying to get a reaction or anything, but these are just nice pictures.
But these are nice pictures and this is who you are.
Exactly. And that's what drew her. And she shared with us that she was only child. It was just her and her mom. She had no siblings. And she was like, I want my child to have a family. And that's what caught her eye. And so she chose us. Now here's the kicker.
Gosh.
So now we're just like, okay, we're chosen. And so it's like, okay, well, how soon can you get to Texas? And I'm like, I don't know. How soon do we need to be there? She's like, as soon as possible. I was like, why? It's like, her due date is August 21st. So here it is, August 17th. So
right.
I was like, it's like, her due date is August 21st and she's having a boy. And she said, the expectant mother, she said, I want them here for the birth because I don't want to have to hold him because I don't want to be attached. And I want to make sure they're the first ones to be able to hold him. So I'm like, OMG. You
got to pack up.
Yes.
Immediately.
I didn't have a wipe. I didn't have a diaper. I didn't have a I'm talking nothing. Not prepared at all. We just started this process.
She said she didn't have a wipe.
Nothing. Like nothing. So I'm like, and after I got off the phone with her, of course, I called my husband. He's at work and I'm calling him and telling him, and he starts crying on the phone and I'm crying on the phone. And then I do a FaceTime call with my sister, my mom, my dad, letting them know, and everybody's crying. We're super excited. I was like, but we got to go. So we got to figure something out here. So again, my village came through. So we shared on social media. I was like, we still don't even have all our funds because I'm like, we're not done fundraising.
Right.
And remember I told you the amount. So the agency in Dallas sends us all the information and all of the fee schedule and everything like that. And remember I told you the amount. I said God told me to
$35,000.
$35,000. When I got the fee schedule from the Texas Adoption Center,
girl, you better not tell me it was $35,000.
It was $34,995.
Wow.
I was like, oh my
okay,
gosh.
God.
And I'm telling you, when I saw all those cases come in throughout the month of July, pretty much, because it only was a month and a half that we waited throughout that month, I'm talking, they will always put the amount that it's going to cost. It's always different amounts. It could be $30,000, $25,000, $40,000, $45,000, $52,000. Like it's a whole bunch of different amounts. So I was like, I don't know why, but the Lord put $35,000 on my heart to ask for that amount from people to bless us. And so my boss, when it was the day of my like staff meeting and stuff at work, and at the beginning of our staff meeting, we always do highs and lows. So like, tell me, what was your high and low of the week? And so I was able to share that my husband was like, well, it looks like I'm about to be a mom. And so that whole office, they already knew like that we were in this process. So they're excited. My boss starts crying. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, staff meeting over. So she actually ended the staff meeting. She's like, few of us, we're going out. We're going to go shop. And so they got us a diaper bag. They went and got blankets. They got onesies. Went to the Target and just bought a bunch of stuff for us to travel with. And my boss also started, she's like, I've never done a GoFundMe before, but I'm doing it. And she started GoFundMe and went online. She's like, I need y'all to bless this family. They're about to be parents to a little baby boy. I need to fly to Texas. And so we end up leaving. So this was, again, like 17th, 18th. We said we would leave on the 20th. Since her due date was the 21st, she's not going to be induced. She's not having a C-section. So she could go into labor any moment. So I was like, we need a little time to pack and prepare before we fly down. I mean, it's Alaska to Texas. So this isn't like around the corner. This is a distance. So years ago, I used to work at Alaska Airlines. And so I had wonderful friends who were like, Adrienne, what can we do? Don't even worry about it. So they got us passes to fly to Texas, which was wonderful. And, nobody's flying during that time. So flights were wide open. So we were flying.
Oh, yeah. Flights were like $2.
Yes. And we were able to get
and nobody was flying.
Nobody was. So we got down there. One of my older sisters, she's a travel agent. And she was like, I want to bless you guys. So she covered our hotel, which was only 5 minutes from the hospital where she was going to be giving birth. And she covered our whole hotel stay. And my best friend got me a gift card for like $200 something to go shopping at Walmart. So get whatever you need. And Walmart was just like maybe 10 minutes from our hotel because we didn't want to take like a stroller and car seat and stuff all that down there. Like, let's just buy it while we're down there. So people just bless us, and they just gave us money, just kept on financially blessing us. And we still had an amount. And this is where I started getting my fear started kind of building up. The agency was like, well, we need the full amount. Like, you have to pay everything. I was like, there's no payment plan, like nothing. No payment plan. Like, you have to have this certain amount. So I was like, we don't have this. And I'm like, I had to max out credit cards, get another credit card. Like, I rent, so I can't do like a HELOC or anything. I can't take out, equity on my house or anything. I'm just renting. So I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, we have literally spent everything. My wonderful parents, they're like, we know that this is what is supposed to happen. And so we want to bless you. And so we're giving you a loan, some money. So they cover the remaining cost of it. Let me tell you, that GoFundMe that my boss put up on top of other random blessings that came in through Cash App, Venmo and stuff was the exact amount to pay my parents back. It was like the amount to cover what I had to pay my parents, the amount back. And it was just like, so everything worked out in a span of a few days. And I was like, God, if this isn't you,
listen, I was just going to say it. When he gets to working,
he was working overtime. Like, we're going to make sure this is going to happen. So it did. And so we got down to Texas and we just kind of hung out and stuff. And so we were able to communicate with her. We did some FaceTime calls and I was like, I've heard of so many different stories from other friends through the adoption agencies of failed adoptions. And so I felt like I couldn't fully relax until I knew like this baby was in my arms, because I've heard of some, like the birth mother, she gives birth and then she changes her mind. Yeah. And of course that's allowed. If she's in a place where she's ready to parent, go for it. But there's still a loss. It's still a grieving process that we would go through because we're preparing and going through the preparation stages and expecting, and then we don't get it. So of course that's kind of where I am. So talking to her, super sweet young girl. I mean, just my heart just went out to her. Like, I just adored her like crazy. And I was like, whatever you need. Do you need anything at all? Like, I just want to love on her like crazy. Like, I just wanted to love on her. And so we had a great conversation. And so we're in Texas and we're just hanging around in the hotel. Again, everything's closed. So we're just hanging out. Yeah. My mom came with us. I have to say this because it's really cute. So she was like, I was there. She had called me before we left to Texas. She was like, I was there for your brother when his kids were born, your sister and all her kids were born. And, I know this is really, really important because I always said I wanted my mom with me. And she's like, I know, but this is like a bonding time for the baby, for you to bond. So I get it if you and Tommy just want to go by yourself. I'm like, Mom, there's no difference. I still want you there. She's like, okay, I was just waiting because I'm about to purchase.
Because she was like, I'm packed already, actually.
I was waiting for the yes from you. So she was like, okay, I was about to purchase push purchase on the computer right here to get my ticket. So I was like, go for it,
I
Mom.
love
So
that.
she came down. And so in our hotel that we got was a suite. So it was like 2 bedrooms and then 2 bathrooms. So she just stayed in the room with us in the living room. So it was a whole suite, kind of like Airbnb. And so she stayed with us. And so we hung out until we got the call on August 23rd that morning at like 9:30 that morning. It was a Sunday morning. And she texted me, the birth mother, and she was like, I think my water broke. I have some like water dripping down my leg. I was like, yes. Okay, your water is broke. And so I was like, call the adoption specialist, call her, and get to the hospital. And so sure enough, she did. And we didn't need to go there until she was closer to like 9-10 centimeters.
Yeah.
And she gave birth at 10:13 p.m. So she was in labor all day.
All day. Bless her heart.
Yeah. So they called us around like 9 o'clock that night and said, head on up to the hospital because she's right almost at that 10 centimeter mark. So we go, and I'm like crying. Like I'm already like, oh my gosh, it's happening. So we go up there, we sit in the waiting room, and next you know, they're rolling him out to us. And I'm the first one to hold him, skin to skin. He's like 10 minutes old. And yeah. On August 23rd. So he's about to be 4 years old on Friday.
Oh my god.
So it's like this time right now. So the timing of this podcast was perfect because
wow.
Because this time, 4 years ago, all this is happening.
So I assume it's an open adoption.
Semi-open.
Yes. Okay.
So she decided, she said that she knew like after she gave birth, we went to see her before she discharged. And she was like, you know, just meeting you and seeing you, it's just, I'm at peace about my decision. And I'm just excited for him to be in such a loving family. So it was just so refreshing to hear her say that. And we took pictures and she said she just wants like one picture a month, just one picture a month. That's all she wants. She's like, I don't need to talk to him or anything. It's like, I just want to see him grow. But sadly, every time I asked her if she was ready for a picture, she never was ready. And so from this day, I've never sent her a picture. But she's young and I know she knows my name. So I know she has found me on social media. My pages aren't private. So I know she's probably found me and has seen him. He's all over my Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. So I know she's had to see him, but I personally have not been able to give her any. And now we actually have not even talked. It's either it was getting too hard for her to hear from me. I don't know. So I was like, she could either be ignoring me, change her number, or block me. I don't know. I've reached out and she stops responding. So I'm very saddened about that because I definitely wanted a relationship with her. But I understand, to a point where this has got to be hard. Like, I don't understand because I've never gone through it, but to know, this, you gave birth to this child. And as much as it's a selfless decision that you made for this child, you love him, because you wanted him to have a good life, but it's still going to be difficult. So that's kind of where we are.
So are you raising your son? He knows how do I want to ask this? Letting him know that he's adopted, or are you raising him? Like that?
We are going to let him know that because he's about to be 4. He's still young. He's extremely intelligent, and I could be biased, but I was told by my best friend who is a school teacher and her mother, who is a retired English teacher, said that my son is very advanced. So she's like, just how he talks, the way we're talking, he could talk to us the same. Like, so when he gets to, when he gets to an age of understanding, I want to be able to tell him where he came from. I want him to know that I'm starting to believe he's starting to understand. And the reason why is because we did end up fostering. So we have another little one in our home.
Okay.
We did open our doors to foster. And so we have a little one who is, she'll be 2 in November, and we got her at 2 months old. And so, and we are now in the process of adopting her.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, and he says things, TJ, he's named after my husband. So his name is Tommy Jr. So call him TJ. So TJ, he says things sometimes. He's like, I don't want her to go back to his friend. Or it's like, he'll say kind of things and he knows like, she's going to be, I'm not going to say her name yet because it's not official, but I'll just give another name, like Sally. It's like, I want to be Sally Tucker. Like he says our last name. Mm-hmm. He's like, she's going to be Sally Tucker. And so he knows like she's not a Tucker yet, but she's going to be. Okay. So it's like, okay, is he understanding this process? But he doesn't know where he's come from. But he understands that this little girl has come into our home, and she's my sister now.
And that's the perfect segue to open up that conversation with him. Age appropriate, levels of that type of conversation, for
Absolutely.
sure. For sure.
So I want him to know where he came from, for sure.
I love that. And then I guess eventually, he's still very, very, very young, but over time, if he's ever wanting to meet his birth mom, I know that you'll help him do that.
Oh, 100%. I want that to happen. I want that to happen. I even said, I was like, next time I take a trip back to Dallas, I want to look her up. I want to see her. And whether I have TJ or not with me, I'm never going to forget her. Like, I can't.
For sure.
For
sure.
So she's always on my mind. She's always on my heart. I'm always praying for her safety, her well-being, just so much, just making sure she's okay and her heart is okay. And, and I was like, and shockingly, God really blessed us too, because most of the cases that were coming in, a lot of them were mothers who were drug addicts or addicted to alcohol or incarcerated or just different things like that. This young girl, she just graduated from college, got her degree. She was at a sorority. She loved to travel. Like, she was doing well. Her situation was just tough. I think it was just, she just wasn't ready. She's like, I want to be a mom someday. It's not my time.
She wasn't ready.
So her heart was precious, for sure.
I absolutely love your compassion and towards the birth mother and just you. Yeah. So for my final question, for anybody that's wanting to go down the road that you have traveled so gracefully, what would you say to them?
To do it. Absolutely do it. My heart is so open to adoption in the sense of, I've heard this a lot too, like, so many people said it. They're like, you hear all these stories of people adopted, and then right after they adopt, they get pregnant, right? So you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And I heard that multiple times after we announced our adoption. And they're like, watch, you're going to end up pregnant. And I didn't. I'm not. And I'm fine with it. I am at peace about not carrying a child in my womb. I don't think I could ever love TJ more than as if he came from my womb, on my loin. Like, I just, and it's just so, like, instantly being able to just hold him and cuddle him and pray over him, like, right away. I'm like, this is my baby. Like, I just love it. And so I love this door that's been open to us to be able to do this. And one thing I didn't share, my mother was adopted. So my mom was adopted at like 3 days old, adopted within the family.
Kinship adoption, yeah.
Yeah, but she so when we told my parents, she was just in tears. She was like, it was something I always wanted to bring up to you, but I didn't know where your heart was because I knew how much you wanted to carry a child. And I didn't want to be sensitive, and I didn't want to say something like, well, Adrienne, go ahead and do this. And so she was like, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. And so when I shared with them that was the path we were taking, she was overjoyed. And so I'm excited about that, just knowing that, it's within our family, like adoptions runs all through our family. And I just want people to be open-minded to it, that there are children out there that need to be loved and need a home. And, instead of them staying in a home where the parents aren't happy or don't want them or whatever the case is, any circumstances, we don't know the circumstances as to why they decide to place their child up for adoption, but why not be that safe place? Why not be, even if you have bio children already, even if you've already, just have a heart for it. And especially within our Black community, there's so little amounts. That, we don't have a lot of Black families out there. And, when we were going through this process, we were asked to speak a few times. I was asked to speak on the Adopt Together crowdfunding, and I was part of a couple different, different adoption organizations specifically geared towards Black families. And I was like, we adopt. We're out there.
Have you talked to Stacey Gatlin from Yes We Adopt?
I was on one of her Instagram lives, and so
she's amazing.
I was like, I want to connect with her.
Please connect with her. I will connect the two of you.
Okay,
she's amazing, and she also is an adoptive parent.
Oh, good. Okay, so and I've heard some of her story too, and I was like, I am an advocate, and I will, I want to speak out about this forever, and really push others to do this. And the money is kind of scary, but when God provides, He provides. When God provides, He provides. Absolutely. And that's what He did for us. And I was like, we didn't have it. Again, we didn't have that $35,000, but it came through. It came, and so by any means necessary. And so I just want to, really just to advocate for people to open up their hearts for those that need a loving home. So
I want to thank you for coming to share your story. Absolutely. It is, that's an incredible story. That is, thank you. And you tell it so well. And like, I could feel every emotion that you had, and disappointment and happiness and everything. So please keep doing literally, and I could feel it. I was with you on that roller coaster. Please keep telling your story, because people need to hear it. And I'm so glad that you came. And hang on for 1 second. Okay. And on that note, until next week, bye, family.
Journey on. You need a pie with the good? Oh yeah, what's the one?